All right, Mike. Well, first I want to thank you as always for helping to host this call. And in the last 2 weeks that we took off, which probably the folks that listen to this needed more than I did, and I needed it. That 2-week break helped, and one of the most common things that came across the email was used cars in 2014. And there's a couple factors to consider this year going into 14 that I think we need to stay aware of as an industry, one of which is that the manufacturers are predicting, and I guess it's probably more than a prediction at this point, it is going to be the all-time production of new cars in history. And I believe it's over 16 million. Traditionally in this industry, there's two types of years you can have when there is massive production. At some point, you will have a year where that production and used cars just stay tied tightly together, and it's a very big year for the industry, an all-time record. The other type of year that you can have when new car production reaches maximum levels is it can have an adverse effect on used cars. And the ways that happens is because, well, as we know, new cars don't age gracefully. Of course, used cars don't either, but new cars especially don't age gracefully. So in order to move all those new cars, the manufacturers typically will start to put programs on. And they'll throw a lot of cash incentives or rate incentives or lease incentives into moving those new cars. As that happens, the recent year new cars, same make, type, and model, those become worth less money. And frequently what happens to us is we at first think it's great. We say, oh, that Equinox that's a 2013, I'm buying those now for what I was buying 2012s for a month ago because the incentives on the 14s become so great. The downside is you don't want to be the dealer that's holding 8 2012 Equinoxes that you paid money for that you could replace with 13s right now, because you're going to take a loss on those vehicles. So I would advise people to keep their inventory lean. You want maybe, it used to be a 3-month supply in the old days, and then most people want about a 2-month supply, and I'd say if you can get it down to between 45 days or so and 60, you're probably better off for this year. You're going to run a lot more efficiently. You'll get your cars through the shop faster. You'll have less aged inventory as the year progresses. And in the event that the market shifts suddenly and we have a lot of new car incentives out there, we're going to be taking an awful lot of vehicles in trade. So our used car inventories are going to build organically through the trade markets. So the need to go out and buy a lot of cars early in the year, and I know a lot of you have your inventories lean right now, and that's great. It's a good business practice this time of year. You're in the mode where you want to start to amp up your inventory. Well, that's great. I would advise doing it more slowly than in previous years. Don't be in such a hurry. I got a feeling that we're going to have those things naturally, organically grow. And the other factor into this equation is that in 2011 was really the first full year that leasing became commonplace again for all the manufacturers. Everybody remembers that's been in this industry for a while that around 2007, 8, 9, leasing virtually disappeared. At one point it did disappear. And over time it started to come back into play. Well, 2011 was the first year that leasing became popular again through all the manufacturers, and it's grown each year since. What that means to us from a used car standpoint is we're going to have all of those cars, or the majority of them, leased in 2011, coming off lease in 2014. So those vehicles are going to be available to us. So we're going to have an awful lot of 3-year-old vehicles that are going to come into the market that in the past couple of years haven't been coming into the market. So we're going to have off-lease vehicles. So those factors need to be considered when you're making your buying purchases. It's one of the biggest assets a dealer has is his used car inventory. And if you stock up too quickly with too many vehicles right now, you're going to potentially put yourself into a situation where you're going to be taking cars in trade that you're going to have to make the determination to wholesale them. You want to keep flexible this year, and you want to be able to make the determination, like every good business does, at the curb. Is this a wholesale car or is this a retail car? And if you get yourself into too heavy an inventory situation, then the decision is made for us and everything becomes a wholesale unit. So I would caution you as you move forward into 2014, remember that those 3-year-old leases are going to be coming available. And if your manufacturer starts to have to become very aggressive to move new car units, you're going to have a glut of 1- and 2-year-old vehicles that are going to depreciate fairly quickly based on the programs. So with that said, that hopefully will cover the topic and give you some thoughts and ideas for this coming year, what to do with used cars, and whether or not you're using tools like AAX, Red Bumper, vAuto, the velocity philosophy of quickly turning inventory and paying very close attention to the market days supply in your market. The pricing structures have changed. The inventory philosophy of turn has changed. So you want to make sure that throughout this entire year you're aware of all these facts and you take them into account as you build your inventory. So hopefully that will help you folks this year. And I look forward to talking to you again next week. As usual, any questions you have and the suggestions for topics, please just email them in. When our director, Mike, sends you out the information on the call, you'll have my email address. Feel free to email me. As always, I will answer all of the emails within a business day. I'm in a different time zone this week, so it's a little tough for me to promise I'll get to them before 5 p.m. Eastern Time, but I'll have them all answered by tomorrow. And anyone that needs to reach me, feel free to call the office. They'll give you my cell phone, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Mike, thank you very much for hosting this call, and I look forward to speaking to everybody again next week.